going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the EOC Podcast, Emergency Operations Conversations. I am your host, Jeff Perkins, and I'm happy to have you with me again for episode number 2. I want to give a big shout out to everybody that listened to episode number 1. It was great to be able to open up and share, some of my experiences and my unique route to working in emergency management. A vulnerable position to put myself in, but, I feel really comfortable and really want to thank everybody for all their support. Now, today we're going to get into what I consider was a pretty significant event, which occurred December 5th. And at approximately 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, there was what was originally reported as a 7.3 magnitude earthquake about 45 miles southwest of Eureka, California. So that would have been out in the ocean, 10, 15 miles off the coast, and was reported at a depth of approximately 8 miles. Now, they eventually updated that magnitude to be 7.0 from the original reported 7.3, but still, that's a pretty significant shake. Northern California experienced some ground shaking and some localized damage from that, but there was a subsequent tsunami warning that was issued for much of the coast of California, all the way up to the Oregon coast at the Lane County, Douglas County line on the Oregon coast. So that definitely caused for a lot of alert, at the state of Oregon and California. State of Washington was pretty much safe from any sort of warnings. However, they were still reaching out and monitoring just for their own situational awareness, just to see what was going on. So immediately it went into response mode at the state level here in Oregon. The state of Oregon issued a closure of all beaches in the state, regardless of where they were located. And I can really understand the state taking that extra precaution just to protect anybody who had the inclination to head out to the beaches or maybe want to go see if they can see any of the potential signs of a tsunami. A lot of the time, you tell people, hey, there's something going on, you should protect yourself from it. And you kind of have a element of people who want to go see it. They want to witness it firsthand. They don't just want to see it on the news. They want to be part of the story. They don't want to just watch the story. And so I think that the state did a good job of leaning forward and saying, let's just take away the ability for people to be in the wrong place at the wrong time on accident, or the ability for people to come and be looky-loos and end up getting themselves in a situation that they can't easily get themselves out of. So state of Oregon was, I think, right in their decision to close those beaches right away. It didn't matter where it was. Let's just close them all and try to protect the public. Those that serve in some sort of function of emergency response, emergency management, knew what it was that they were supposed to do. And that's a product of training and exercise and always being prepared for the big one. And the big one is the sleeping giant that lives off the coast of Oregon, Washington, Northern California, and parts of British Columbia. And that sleeping giant is the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. For folks that don't know what that is where the North America plate and the Juan de Fuca plate meet. And that's just in that area, that Cascadia subduction zone, which is just off of the coast of British Columbia, Washington State, Oregon, and Northern California. So those two plates are at odds with one another. They're moving into each other, and they're causing constant friction and pressure. And eventually, the pressure will reach a point where one of the plates will win. And the way that that's looking and what geologists have said is it will cause a sudden rupture as well as a potential 9.0 magnitude earthquake. Now, if you want to think about 9.0, think March 11th, 2011 in Japan. That was a 9.0 earthquake, and you can see the devastation that that earthquake caused. Experts have pretty much landed on the fact that if the shaking is 9.0 in magnitude, everything west of Interstate 5, which is the main interstate that goes all the way from the Canadian border down to the Mexican border, so it goes through all of Washington State, all of Oregon, and all of California, in the areas that are going to be affected by the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. Again, that's British Columbia, all of Washington's west coast, and all of Oregon's west coast, and parts of Northern California. So anybody west of I-5 in that area is going to pretty much suffer the most severe damage that the quake will cause. And just in my time of working in emergency management, that is the big one that we are always preparing for. There is some difference in opinion on whether or not the earthquake will reach 9.0. Some people believe it'll be less than that. Some people even believe it'll be more. But the 9.0 number has been the target for any sort of training or exercise or preparation work related to seismic preparedness. That 9.0. If we prepare for a 9.0 and it's a 7.5, then, at least we prepared for the worst and we got a little lucky because we'll probably have a little more resources or infrastructure still in place than what we originally anticipated or trained for. So the 9.0 is definitely known and is that magic number that emergency preparedness folks and everybody else within that realm, that's what they prepare for, is that 9.0. And all of the preparation that has been done in this area, I think is really good. I think we've really come a long way in Oregon and the Northwest in preparing for, what I referred to as the sleeping giant. And I think there's really no better way to describe it other than a sleeping giant, because it's exactly what it is. It's going to be probably the most devastating natural disaster to ever hit the United States in modern history. It will cause so much devastation and so much loss of life. It's going to be an absolute catastrophe. Now, that being said, that's a lot of doom and gloom, but that's what we think about when we see a 7.3 magnitude earthquake off the coast of California, which triggers tsunami warnings for the Oregon coast. Immediately, us in emergency management out here in the Pacific Northwest go to Cascadia. What do we do? What do we do in Cascadia? All the plans that we have in relation to tsunami evacuations and whatnot all have to do with Cascadia. And so it makes us look, reevaluate, fix, tweak, whatever we need to do for those plans that we have, those Cascadia plans. And it's a really golden opportunity when these events happen for us to be able to, like I said, reevaluate, reanalyze, and take a deep dive into what we're doing and where we are with our planning. And for all the folks in Oregon, the planning for the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake is forefront of their minds. In the last week of October, the Oregon Department of Emergency Management conducted the Iron Ore 24 full-scale exercise. And what that was a exercise of all different emergency support functions, plans, and processes, procedures in response to the Cascadia subduction earthquake starting at hour 96. So that means the EOC's getting turned on and different resources are now available that weren't available from hour 1 through 95. And so starting at hour 96, you now have some more resources east of the Cascade Mountains, which would be the primary staging point for federal resources coming into the region. In 2016, the Cascadia Rising exercise was conducted, and that's from the moment of shaking to hour 96. So some of the plans and processes that were developed and tested during Cascadia Rising in 2016 are no longer applicable for the world that we live and operate in 2024. Now, again, there's really no way to tell when it's going to happen. Some people have said that we're, 100 years or more overdue. So I've heard some theories saying that there's a 50% chance of it happening in the next 50 years. I've also heard other theories that percentage is different. But regardless, I think we just operate under the assumption that it can happen any day. And it really can. So that is the big one that we are always prepared for. And so I know that when that happened yesterday, my mind immediately went to Cascadia subduction zone, and it went nowhere else other than that. But I think it's a really good reminder, not only if you work in a response function or you work in some sort of emergency service, if you live in the region, you really should have a plan. You should have a plan. You should be 2 weeks ready to self-sustain and be ready to, weather the storm, so to speak, because it's going to be a long time before help is going to arrive, and it's going to be even longer the farther west you live of I-5. And if you do not have an emergency food supply, water supply, extra medications, if you're on medications, an out-of-state contact to reach out to when you can, then those things need to start being on the forefront of your mind if you live in the Pacific Northwest. Because, like I said, it's not if, it's when. It's going to happen. It could happen at any moment. So if you do not have a personal plan, then let either yesterday's incident or my podcast that you're listening to right now, whenever this is, be the catalyst for you to make the decision to go and get 2 weeks ready. So there is a ton of information that you can find online. You can Google be 2 weeks ready. I just encourage everyone that's listening to make sure that you are aware of the hazards around you and do what you can to prepare yourself, not out of fear, but just out of the fact that if I lived in Tornado Alley, you better believe that I'd have a plan for when a tornado hits. The frequency of earthquakes in Oregon may not be to the frequency of tornadoes in Tornado Alley. However, it's not if, it's when. So take advantage of the time to prepare yourself. Your states are preparing to help you at the best of their abilities, but you got to understand that some of these people who are going to be responding to come help you are also potentially going to be victims themselves, and they may not be there. So it's going to be on you. Neighbors are going to be the first responders when this happens. So get to know your neighbors if you don't already, and make sure that they, especially if your neighbors are elderly or disabled, that they know that they can count on you. Be there to help them out. Explain to them that there is this pretty scary monster sitting off the West Coast that they may not be aware of. There's some people that I've encountered that have no idea what Cascadia subduction zone is, what the earthquake is, the fact that there even is an earthquake potentially that's going to cause devastation. Some people just aren't even aware that it's there, or that it's a threat. Involve yourself in things like CERT. For those that don't know what CERT is the CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team. That is a FEMA-sanctioned program where neighbors help neighbors, and you are trained on how to respond after a significant event like a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake to get your neighborhood or your area back up and running, how to apply basic first aid, how to shut off gas lines, a whole bunch of really useful information that you're trained on, and it allows you to immediately respond in your space, in your neighborhood, post-disaster. You're the first responder, and there is a bunch of different activities that CERT volunteers engage in outside of CERT, like ham radio and other things that are going to be extremely important and useful post-Cascadia. So a lot of these things are available. They're free. They don't cost you any money to be part of. And it's just part of you and your community preparing for the worst. So just like your state looks at these instances like yesterday as an opportunity to prepare more, so too should you, as a resident, make the commitment to yourself, to your family, to your community, that you are going to be prepared and have a plan and have different items on hand that will allow you to self-sustain when the big one hits. Now, I mentioned that there's a lot of information online that you can Google. Specifically for Oregon, you can go to oregon.gov/OEM. That's O as in Oscar, E as in Edward, M as in Mary. And that will take you to the Oregon Emergency Management homepage. And then there you can navigate to the 2 weeks ready program, information on the Cascadia subduction zone, Cascadia Island mapping, other hazards in Oregon, community, individual, and business preparedness, shake alert information, and other publications, both locally, regionally, and national. Now, shake alert, that is a interesting and kind of new technology that's been rolled out, which has a bunch of different sensors located in different places around the state that when those sensors detect shaking, they immediately send out a wireless emergency alert to subscribers and notifies them that there has been shaking detected and to take appropriate action. So that would be drop, cover, hold on. Shake alert doesn't predict when or where an earthquake will occur or how long it'll last. It just detects earthquakes that have already begun, which offer, those vital seconds of advanced warning to allow people and systems to take action to protect life and property from the destructive shaking. So some of those things, the really neat features of Shake Alert that exist are opening up roll doors at fire stations that could become damaged from severe shaking, or sending elevators to the bottom floor that may become damaged during shaking and allow for people who are in the elevators to safely get out. There's a whole bunch of different things that the Shake Alert technology allows to happen. And again, that's on the Oregon Emergency Management website that you can look into that. You can also go to ready.gov, and that's a federal website, and they have a bunch of different information on different disasters and emergencies, how to make a plan, how to ready your business, how to ready your kids, different resources for severe weather, winter weather, power outages. They have a whole tool on how to build a kit, how to sign up for emergency alerts, how to download the FEMA mobile app. So there's a ton of information out there that you can use to help get yourself, your family, your neighborhood, your community, and everyone else that matters to you ready to survive and thrive after an emergency. And just like we plan at the state for the worst possible scenario of the 9.0 Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, you can take that same approach and prepare for the worst. And when a less severe emergency happens, you're just that much more prepared. So that's the best advice I think I could give anybody, is just use the resources that are available to you and have a plan. Understand that hazards are out there. They're going to happen. And it's up to you and your community to come together and work together to get things back on track and to resume normal life as it was prior to the emergency. So I hope you enjoyed episode number 2 of the EOC Podcast, Emergency Operations Conversations. I hope this is going to be episode number 2 of many, many, many more to come. Thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in again. Next time we're here, I hope to have a guest on and be able to have those emergency operations conversations. So again, my name is Jeff Perkins. I appreciate you being here. Have a great day. Stay safe and have a plan.